Hello everyone, my name's Rabea. I'm here with Martin Kidd, and together we are down at Brighton Electric Studios showing off the brand new Victory MK Overdrive amplifier. So I guess the best thing to do at this early stage in the video is to talk about a bit of background about how the amp came about and the inspiration behind it.
Yes, I mean Victory, as we know, has been going 10 years, probably a bit longer than that now, but we thought we perhaps ought to come up with something to commemorate or mark those 10 years, and we threw a few ideas around. But one of the things I used to get asked quite a lot is, are Victory going to make anything like the Cornford MK50 Mark II of years ago?
Which of course is your design, your amplifier.
Yeah, and so I decided, well, that would be a good starting point at least. I've learnt stuff along the way, and there are things I'd probably do differently. I won't even say they're better. It's just that things more to my preference that I've come across.
Your evolution as an amp designer, would you say?
Yeah, kind of.
So this amplifier, MK Overdrive, I suppose, as you just said, is kind of inspired by that original Cornford amplifier, but it's obviously taken on its own life. That was the kind of foundations for it. I guess tonally, and obviously there were plenty of R&D sessions that we did, but I guess the main thing about it is it's hand-wired, completely hand-wired. And
it's a hybrid construction. So the boards, you've got board-mounted turrets, but there is some track underneath the board, and this is one of the areas of consistency I wanted to be sure of, because depending on who's wiring the amp, they may decide they're going to dress a wire a certain way, or they'll leave it a bit long, and all of these things make a bit of a difference. They can play up.
They affect the tone.
They affect the tone, but sometimes they just affect the stability of a circuit as well.
So you're eliminating variables by doing that
Yes. Sometimes you can't see what you're doing when you put the board down. All of this stuff might get moved about. So we eliminate that. So
and it's also worth saying that, because these amplifiers are available all over the place, and if someone hears this video or hears one in a guitar shop and decides they want their own, they go and order it. If it wasn't done that way, then there's a possibility it wouldn't sound the same as the one that they heard either on YouTube or in the guitar shop, and so you're also eliminating that possibility too, I guess.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. These are all things just to make it. They're minute differences, and you will get differences in the valves, for instance, that you use. There are things that will sound different, and we can't control those. We can cherry pick, and we can do as much as possible. But at the end of the day, you've just got to try and eliminate. If you want consistency, try and eliminate many of the variables.
So, as we said, we know where the inspiration's from, and in terms of this particular amplifier and the way we've sort of landed on a layout and everything else, you've got, I guess you could say you've got 3 channels really, because you've got a clean, you've got 2 gains that are all foot switchable. So I see that as a 3-channel amplifier personally. Even though gains 1 and 2 are derived from the same sort of tone, they do have a different sound to them.
Oh, they are different, yes. That was one of the things, a recurring comment, not so much a criticism even, but it was a comment on the MK50 Mark II, is that the overdrive, you would set the gain and then you would set the additional boost. Whereas I thought that made it interactive and sometimes fiddly for people to, just because they've got to adjust 2 knobs instead of 1. So I thought, well, we'll just make it so that we just switch from a less, a crunchy overdrive to a more saturated overdrive.
And you've got the 2 volumes as well, so you can, sort of dial that in for your preference as well. One can be rhythm and then one can be lead, or you can have just a volume boost, you know, and it's foot switchable as well, the volumes.
It's independently switchable of those two, so...
Which is fantastic, really, in terms of, you know, like tone dialing and usability.
Yeah, it was all these little things that I thought could be, in my mind, could be an improvement from my original thinking.
So I guess we should kind of go through the amplifier in such a way that maybe like gain. So we'll start low gain and we'll
go
gradually build ourselves up to the highest of gain. Because this amp certainly has a lot of gain.
Quite a bit.
But we'll start with the clean channel and the general kind of vibe around that, the voice switch, and just it's got its own presence and resonance, its own level as well, irrespective of the master volume. So there's plenty going on. Tell me about the kind of vibe for the clean.
It's, I suppose, it's its own thing, but if I could liken the topology to anything, it's more Fendery, and the reason I say that is the tone stack comes off the first stage, off the first gain stage, so it doesn't work at the end of the signal chain. It works more at the beginning. Which is nice for clean sounds, but it becomes far less effective with more overdrive.
Yeah.
You know, if you overdrive a circuit like that, you find that the controls do far less, and they behave differently to if the tone stack is further down and can control everything that's gone before.
Yeah.
That controls everything that goes after.
It has a nice kind of scoop to it. If we're not talking about the voice switch straight away, if that's in its standard position, it's got, like you say, it's got a nice Fendery kind of scoop clean to it that lends itself to both single coils and humbuckers and P90s and everything. And what I really like about it personally is the spectrum of gain, because you really can have the gain low, boost the clean level, and get that just beautiful sparkle with that little bit of scoop to it. But as you start cranking this up, it starts to bite back a little bit. But it's not nasty. It's just the more you dig in, the more cranky it gets.
Yes.
In a good way.
That's a good word. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are so many words to describe things like
there
this.
are.
Cranky, I think.
Cranky, that's a good one. Yeah. Yes. And yes, that's exactly what it does. And one reason for the addition of a level control for that channel, rather than having just a gain control and then going straight to the master, there is a level control.
Yeah.
So that you can get a level of mild overdrive, compression or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's also sort of keeping in mind the fact that you can control each level independently, so you clean, you crunch, your overdrive. So as you were talking about earlier, dialing in different tones for different songs and different guitarists, etc., having the ability to do that, having the clean level and then those two volumes on the overdrive channel, I think works really well for that purpose. So, when you do the clean voice switch, what happens? I mean, I know what happens, but
you just get a bit more upper mid, but it comes in via the treble control. Yeah, it's really it in a nutshell. That's what happens.
It's got a bit of a TS kind of vibe to it. I wouldn't say it's quite as sort of like exaggerated as a tube screamer, but it certainly gives you a little mid bump that I think works really nicely.
Yes, yeah, depending on how you're going to use that clean channel. It does affect how everything else works, so I thought it's probably best just to have a set and forget. You'll have a preference. Yeah. Or if you're going to do it between songs, it's not something you'd switch mid-song, I don't think. It might help you balance between two different guitars, possibly.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where you might have it up for humbuckers and down for single coils.
Yeah, something like that.
Depends what you're into, but I can imagine, you know, like boosting the gain, having the voice switch in on a neck single coil, it's going to be quite a nice sort of woody kind of clean tone.
Yeah. So. There were many other ideas I had for what could that switch do, and I just thought I often use that because I think it's the most useful. Yeah. And it does more. You know, there are other things.
The do more switch?
Yeah, the do more switch, yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question on the clean channel would be, obviously this has come quite a long way since the Cornford amp, of course. How similar do you feel this clean channel is to that original amplifier?
There is one main difference, and that is there is actually an extra bit in the signal change, tiny bit of extra gain. Okay. And so I think that's where it does differ, where you've got a greater scope. Yeah. With the Cornford, it was largely a clean channel, whereas this
a bit more moldable.
Yes, it just gives you more flexibility, more touch sensitivity. It can still be sparkly clean, but actually set with more gain. It just allows you to play more lightly.
I really like the fact that, particularly with this amplifier, but we've done the same with, say, Kraken Mark II, is make a clean channel. Notoriously, with high gain amplifiers, clean channels always feel like they're a bit neglected. It's like it needs a clean channel, so we'll put one in. Whereas what we do here is make sure that the clean is a really usable clean. Yeah. You know, you could use the clean on this and not even need to use the overdrive because the clean just works so well. Yes. As a clean amp. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Indeed, yes. Yeah. Well, I was hearing earlier that, you know, depending on how you want to set it, would suit the type of guitar player that I was talking about earlier, where you could do things off your guitar. Yeah. Just purely off your guitar, perhaps a tube scream or something like that. Yeah. And you could get all of what you want, you know, depending on the sort of gig you're doing, but it could well do that. So I think that's how it differs, is you can just do more with it, whereas the its predecessor, if I can call it that, it was a clean channel, and that's really, the sole purpose of it was just to be a clean channel.
Yeah.
And that was that.
That's the clean channel, and I think it's only natural that we move up in gain and start on gain 1 of 2.
Indeed.
Firstly, again, I'll ask the question, how far have we come in terms of the style of overdrive from the MK50?
A fair way.
Yeah.
I would say in fact, probably what we've ended up with, if I'm honest, is what I learnt doing all the stuff I took in and enjoyed working on the Kraken.
Yeah.
So there's some of that I've put in.
Yeah.
And some of the original classic rock MK time of overdrive, that's still in there, but I tried to tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, not make it modern, just for all those out there.
No.
When Martin said Kraken, you're thinking it's for the high gain progressive metal. No, I think it's more your approach.
Yeah, just that there were things that I learnt there, and I thought, well, these don't have to be. You don't have to do things to the extreme.
Yeah.
And they're not done to the extreme with the Kraken, but they're just ideas that could, just make the overdrive channel more versatile.
Yeah.
And along with that, I wanted it to be a little bit more user-friendly.
Yeah.
So I just separated the crunch and the overdrive, rather than have you set your crunch and then you add your overdrive. Might not. If you do it that way, it's so interactive that you'll almost feel it's a bit of a compromise.
Yeah.
Not a huge deal breaker, not a right nuisance or anything else. But sometimes it is just something that you need to say, right, well, if somebody's gone to get their perfect crunch setting, whatever that is, switching over so that then that can be left alone, and we just switch over to the overdrive. You've got very little that you can adjust, but at least if you can set a gain control and you're happy with the entire range of it, rather than, well, there's the sweet spot, I'd like more gain, but then if I turn that up, I've got to turn that down. You don't have any of that.
No.
You can just set it to where you want it.
Yeah.
So it was just trying to tweak that idea to make it a bit more user friendly.
Yeah.
And then adding another voice, which we've got, which allows the crunch channel again to be classic rock.
Yeah.
Or probably, I dare say that with the aid of, well, on its own possibly, or with the aid of a tube screamer, you've got again one of those sounds that could be everything on the guitar.
Yeah.
And 2 volume controls. And
yeah, because obviously you've got gain 1 and 2, then you've got a voice switch for both those gains. So really, there are 4 different types of sounds we can get all out of that channel. Because like I said, I think of it as a 3-channel amp, but really it's the overdrive channel.
Yeah.
We've got these 2 different styles of gain, and then the voices. So there's a lot going on there in terms of tone shaping for the overdrive. But it's worth saying, I feel like gain 1 can be a crunch, especially when you dial back the gain. But as soon as you crank it, you put the voice switch down, and if you say give it a little boost, you're straight into that classic rock, hard rock of the late 80s kind of that tone.
It can do that,
100%. And I think it's a fantastic channel. I had a lot of fun playing my Les Paul with this channel because it's just a barky, British kind of snarly kind of overdrive, which just really works well. Again, we've got presence and resonance for this channel as well, and we share the EQ. We talked about having 2 volumes, which is nice to set and forget, depending on if you want your crunch and then a solo boost, or your 2 different channels.
Yeah.
But if we move across to gain 2, this is where it gets really interesting, at least from the R&D perspective of my experience, because it's obviously more gain. It can go into the realms of, I tried to get it to do a bit metal-y kind of stuff, which it can totally do, especially if you tighten it up with a tube screamer. But when we were in R&D, we had a funny interaction with it, didn't we? When
Probably.
I was riffing out on this amplifier. This is the later stages of R&D, and we're having a little mess about with it. And again, the amplifier in question, make no mistake, this is an expensive amplifier. It's hand wired. It's meant to be the creme de la creme of the crop, right? So I was playing it, and there was something about it that I couldn't put my finger on, but as we always talk about, it's the feel of the amplifier. When you're playing the guitar, you feel it and you notice it. So we had everyone else in the Victory team stood around, and I'm there going, I just don't. There's something I'm just not sure. I can't put my finger on it, but it's not really doing it for me. There's something about it that's stopping me from making me want to I just want to play all the time. There's something stopping me from having that. And we've had this relationship throughout Victory stuff where I'm terrible at describing things from an engineering perspective. I just come out with all the most random possible descriptive words, but somehow you know what I mean.
Well, I do know what you mean, partly because the R&D process prior to going to NAMM was right down to the wire.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
As is our way. And then I don't know, having to send it off on its journey to America and then have a rest from it for a while, and hearing it in a different environment I was thinking, it's good and people are liking it, but there's still something I think should be changed. But I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I'd never heard it in that environment.
Yeah, I noticed it at NAMM as well. I had to plug into it for a bit, and I remember thinking it feels quite fast, and something about it that I didn't remember it feeling like that when we'd done the R&D before. And it's also worth saying that the MK Clean, we spent a lot longer on the R&D process.
Yeah.
This came much later, much closer to NAMM. So it was when we got back and we were doing another session on it.
Because it hadn't been signed off.
It hadn't been signed off.
No.
So we just wanted to unveil it at the NAMM show, right?
Yeah.
So this is after NAMM, and we're there, and I'm riffing out, and I'm just trying to think of all these words to describe what I mean, and getting all passionate about it, like, I just don't understand, you know. And then Martin goes, no, I think I've got an idea. And this is classic. This happened with the Kraken as well.
This
happens. So Martin wanders off with the amp, and he's like, gets soldering iron out, some clippers, and starts messing around inside. And we'll talk about what it is you did afterwards, but then he brings it back over and he goes, right, try that. Plugged it in, and instantly I was like, okay, no, whatever you did, whatever you've changed in that 5 minutes has now completely changed. And I just couldn't stop playing. I just wanted to keep playing. And the same happened while we were shooting this video earlier. I just wanted to keep playing. They basically had to take the guitar out of my hands to film this part of the video, because it just did something to the amp that made it just give back what you're trying to put into it. Do you know what I mean? I remember you making that adjustment, and we stood around, the guys in the room, and I'm there going, yeah, this is great. And there was a couple of guys going, I don't really notice the difference. I mean, it sounds great still, but I'm just wondering, like, really? Like, I'm not sure now. And so people started to second guess if it was really worth making this adjustment, until you handed them the guitar and they played it and they went, oh yeah, no, yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. And suddenly it became this, that was just that small change that just I don't know, just completely transformed the feel of the amp. And to be honest, I just think it's, at this stage now, hearing it today, getting to sit and play through it with my board is just such a rewarding experience. I guess we should also really quickly talk about, it's got an effects loop.
Has.
A really nice effects loop.
Yep, the usual.
Sounds good. Is it the same effects loop that you run through most of your amp designs, or is there anything different about it?
No, there's nothing different. Don't think there is. No, I don't think there's nothing different. It's just a series effects loop. Yeah. I use a high voltage FET as a buffer. Okay. And it's in the circuit all the time, so that there isn't a difference. When you take your pedals out, it's still the same circuit. Just because otherwise, if you introduce a bit of circuitry, there is the potential for that little bit of circuitry to have a different frequency response. That's why I do it. It's just if it's there all the time, then it shouldn't sound any different, whether you've got pedals in it or not. Yeah.
So 100 watts. Remind me of the tubes that are in here.
Preamp, there's 412 AX7s, ECC 83s, and then the output stage, that particular amplifier there's got 6 L6s, 4 of those, but there's enough scope on the bias control to put EL34s in as well, so awesome. you can decide what your preference is.
So the MK Overdrive, being the high gain part of the MK family, is customizable in a lot of ways. And in this particular setting, we've paired it with a 212 with Alnico Golds in it. And it's also worth saying that when we were doing the R&D, we were trying all the different Victory cabs and stuff that have all sorts of different speakers.
Yes.
And we all really enjoyed the Alnico Golds. So it's kind of like, I guess, the Victory favourite speaker would be Alnico Golds.
That's our favourite. You can have what you like.
Yeah, you can have V30s, G12H65, well, anything.
You probably could have anything, but when our R&D has largely been Celestian.
And we liked the punch and the low end sort of thump of a closed back cab. I think when you're running an Overdrive high gain amplifier, closed back works, or at least for me.
It works better, and also because of the resonance control, that works in the negative feedback circuit. So the effect of it is limited if the speakers have got more freedom to move. It still works, still does the same kind of thing, but it's less apparent.
I should also mention that the MK Overdrive comes with this foot switch. It's a 4-button foot switch, and we always debate what the foot switches should do.
Yeah.
But we kind of all agreed in this particular scenario, having control of the channel, the two types of gain in the Overdrive's channel, and then having control over the volumes independently, and then being able to bypass that effects loop, were all kind of the most usable features.
I think so, yeah.
Because as you mentioned, the voices on each channel is kind of a set and forget thing.
Yeah,
it's down to the player.
Yes, indeed. Because if you change the voice, that then changes what you need. It's 100% likely to change how you set the tone stack. So you might as well set the voice for the response you like, and then set your tone controls thereafter.
Yeah, so this foot switch essentially just allows you to control all of the different gain staging and volumes in the amplifier along with the effects, which I think that's how I'd use it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, well, a lot of discussion, debate. What should we put? But that's
almost as much as the amplifier when we came to the foot switch.
Oh yeah, well, not far off it. Yes.
Yeah. So we've got this in a lovely cranberry leather with the black face and the black cloth and badge, and as I keep saying, it's completely customizable. This is Muirhead leather, and you can get all kind of different colours, can't you? I mean, we've got a couple behind us, as you can see.
Yeah, they're there. You'll have to look on the website because I can't remember what you can get, and
almost every colour. It's crazy how many different options there are. But it's nice that Victor have started offering this kind of service to people, particularly when you're getting an amp of this caliber and obviously of this price point. It's really nice to be able to customize it, to personalize it for yourself. But honestly, I think it goes without saying you've done an absolutely insane job of this amplifier, Martin.
I'm pleased with it,
and I'm completely honoured to be a small part of the R&D process and get to play through these things and come to the R&D meetings and enjoy the discussion and debate over what it's going to end up being in the final stages.
Beats having a proper job, I reckon.
I'd say so.
Yeah,
turning up light amps and going deaf at a young age.
Yeah, at an old age as well.
Yeah. So there we go. There is a look at the brand new MK Overdrive. It's an absolute beast. You should definitely check it out. For more information about the MK Overdrive or any of the other amplifiers, you can go to victoryamps.com. And as always, thank you for your time and for the chat, Martin.
Yeah, well, we go on for hours, so this is just a snippet of what's gone before. And thank you.